Hello everybody, it is I, Jxbermudez27, and today I would like to talk to you all about a video game series made by Namco that goes by the name of Klonoa. It's kind of ironic that Klonoa is more well known nowadays for being that game series that no one played, and was overlooked even though all the games were awesome. But it's too easy to just say that. I myself wanted to see, why did Klonoa not do so well? How did Namco advertise Klonoa? Most videos just go over how Namco failed to advertise him, but how did they fail? Well, keep watching and find out why I think Klonoa never took off. In this video, I will be talking about everything Klonoa related. Everything. And I will go over how they were advertised. And so, let us begin. Klonoa Door to Phantomile. The first game in the Klonoa series came out in 1997. Fun fact, Klonoa was originally going to be a human and a robot body named Anime. Yeah, I know, weird. The game was made by one Hideo Yoshizawa. Anyways, I myself liked the first game. But that's about it. I personally think the first game suffers from a lot of problems, such as how the stages have gimmicks like Vision 5-2, having a goddamn day and night system. Well anyways, in Japan, Door to Phantomile actually did rather well. Well, at least for the time it came out. And from what I could gather, it did okay in America. I mean, it did well enough to make sure we got future Klonoa games, so that's cool. But let's now talk about some of the ads. Now, in Japan, there were a few commercials for Door to Phantomile, but here in America, there was no such thing. Instead, we got a few magazine ads and, oh boy, where do I begin? Let's talk about this ad first. It's actually kind of interesting. Fun fact, this image actually implies that the Klonoa series was originally going to keep the Japanese name of the series. For those of you who don't know, the Japanese name of the series is Kaze no Klonoa, or as it translates, Klonoa of the Wind. I imagine it wasn't chosen though, because let's be honest, Klonoa of the Wind, Door to Phantomile is a mouthful. And then there's this ad. Yeah, this one's weird. It's of a couple making out and the girl says she wants Klonoa. Can you imagine making out with a girl and then the girl says to you, honey, I want Klonoa. Sugar, I have Klonoa. Actually, that kind of makes Klonoa sound like an STD you don't want to get. Anyways, moving on. Okay, now this one, without a doubt, has to be the worst. This game is weirder than your sister. Like, oh my god, that's almost as bad as the This Game Stinks ad that Earthbound had. Anyways, these ads didn't overall seem to hurt Klonoa 1. I mean, after all, the game did well enough for a whole franchise to come from it, so yeah. Speaking of which, Klonoa Moonlight Museum. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I don't think highly of this game. The level design goes from boring to bullshit, the music is awful and heck you're listening to it now, and overall the game is just not that interesting. The best thing to come out of this game are other Klonoa games, which we'll get into later. But this game isn't really that interesting to talk about on its own. I couldn't find any commercials, no ads, and this game wasn't released anywhere else besides Japan. Though that's because the WonderSwan itself, the console that Moonlight Museum was on, wasn't released anywhere else besides Japan. I mean, I guess one thing worth noting is that there was a version of the WonderSwan that came pre-packaged with Moonlight Museum, so maybe that helped the game sell more, but who knows. Moving on. Klonoa 2 Lunate's Veil. Oh yeah, without a doubt, probably the most well-received Klonoa game. While Klonoa is most well known for his first game, most likely, when it comes to the reviews, Klonoa 2 has it beat. It has 8 and 9 out of 10s across the board. Heck, I myself love the game to death. The music is awesome, the gameplay is awesome, the story is pretty good, and the characters are nice. The game's not perfect. The game sometimes uses some stages and then adds a gimmick to it, but I didn't mind those stages, and some of the stages go on for way too long. Looking at you, Arc Revisited. Anyways, this game also introduced two characters that would become mainstays in the Klonoa series. Lolo, a priestess who, while very clumsy, has a heart of gold, and also she would kind of become a love interest for Klonoa throughout the rest of the series. And then there's Popka, an asshole with a heart of gold, and I love him. There's also Leorna and Tad, and they're cool too. But we're not here to talk about that. As much as I love Klonoa 2, its advertisements were kinda horrible. It had a commercial. Now, I know when I was talking about Door to Phantomile, I mentioned the commercials in passing, but I can't do that with the Klonoa 2 commercial, because of one thing. I could only find one commercial for Klonoa 2, whereas I found a couple for Door to Phantomile. And well, this was that one commercial. Yeah, that was pretty bad. First off, it said nothing about the game other than, oh, it's a game where the main character flies into shit, and nothing more. And then it showed a bunch of people playing the game. That's it! Also, fun fact, the song playing in the commercial was actually a Japanese love song. Yeah, weird. I mean, romance is implied in Klonoa 2, but it wasn't the main theme of the game. From what I hear, the song is popular in Japan, so maybe that's why it was used. But besides from that, all I could find were a few magazine ads, like this one. One thing I haven't brought up to this point is that a lot of these ads bring up Klonoa's ears more than anything. It's actually kind of funny. But yeah, it seems like these magazines advertised Klonoa 2 way more than the commercial did, because I found a bunch of these magazines, but I only found one commercial. Heck, I found a magazine named Gamers Republic that had Klonoa 2 in it. Also, Klonoa 2 had phone cards. I never even heard of a phone card before doing the research for this video. And another thing I want to point out myself is that Lunatea's Veil's box art. The North American and Japanese ones are fine, but the European one is awful. Like legit, it's just Klonoa on a plain white background. In terms of advertisements, Klonoa 2 was okay at best, pretty bad at worst. Until you realize what Namco was hoping for the game though. Namco expected Klonoa 2 to sell 1 million copies by the end of its first quarter. What? Okay, I never got that. Why do some developers say that they expect a game to sell so much? It always just leads to disappointment. And also, if they wanted the game to sell that much, you'd think they would have put more effort into advertising the game other than one commercial and a bunch of magazine ads. It's like someone at Namco went, yeah, I think this game is going to sell 1 million copies because I have a big dick and everything I touch sells 1 million copies, and no, I'm not going to advertise it that much, I just believe it will sell 1 million. Like legit, it feels like Namco was just relying on the fact that they were Namco and the game was going to sell because of that. Oh well, Lunatea's Veil did well enough for the series to continue on. Speaking of that, Klonoa Empire of Dreams. I really like this game. It's such an improvement from Moonlight Museum, it's not even funny. It's not perfect, some of the levels are still very long, the final world of the game sucks, and the game has a really unsatisfying 100% reward. But hey, it also introduced one of my favorite Klonoa characters, Chipple, a kangaroo who has problems with self-confidence, but still becomes one of Klonoa's best friends, even if he, didn't really look that way in his first game. But anyways, I can't really say much for how this game was advertised. I couldn't find a commercial for it anywhere, but I was able to find a few magazine ads. There's this one that's, not that interesting. And then there's this one, which advertises Klonoa's ears once again, but hey, at least this one has a lot of pictures of the game, so yeah. Other than that, that's all I have to say about this game. Klonoa Dream Champ Tournament. Aw yeah, this game is awesome. If it's not Lunatea's Veil that people call their favorite Klonoa game, it tends to be Dream Champ Tournament. I myself love the game to death. It's not my favorite Klonoa game, that still goes to Lunatea's Veil, but it is a really close second. It has fun puzzles that don't take long at all, the collectibles are fun, and the final world doesn't suck. The game also introduced two major characters, Gunt, a bounty hunter that would be Klonoa's rival for the rest of the series, and Garland, a weird dog thing that would become one of the series' main antagonists. Anyways, I couldn't find much on how this game was advertised, no commercials, no magazine ads, and it doesn't help that the game was localized way after it initially came out. What do I mean by that? Well, I'll get back to that. The game actually has a unique way on how it was advertised. A Flash game hosted on Yahoo.com. It seemed to have been just a simple Flash game where you controlled Klonoa and had him collect Dreamstones falling from the sky. And depending on your high score, you could have won some prizes. These being a Nintendo DS, a Namco GBA game, or just a plastic folder based off Klonoa 2. But overall, that's all I could find. But let's talk about how this game was localized. In Japan, the game didn't come out too long after Empire of Dreams, as Empire of Dreams was released in July 19th of 2001 in Japan, and Dream Champ Tournament was released in August 6th of 2002. But, in America, it wasn't localized until 2005. What I wonder is that if Namco was going to wait that long to localize this game, why didn't they take the extra step and port the game onto the DS? I think that might have helped it sell better. But alas, that didn't happen and Dream Champ Tournament suffered because of it. With that said though, let's talk about the next game. Klonoa Beach Volleyball. Overall, it's a fun little sports game. It's fun, the music is nice, and the best part about the game is the character roster. For the first time ever, characters besides Klonoa were playable. And heck, most of these characters haven't been playable since. The characters you played as were Klonoa, Lolo, Popka, Chipple, Liorna, Tat, Gunt, Joka, Heartmoo, Notatum, Garland, and Super Garland. Well, with that said, let's talk about the game's biggest problem. It was a PlayStation game in 2002. Why, oh why, did they release this game for the PlayStation? Like I said, I never got that about some game series. Why do some developers decide to make a game for a previous console when the series had already been on the next generation of consoles? It never speaks good news, and plus I think the game would have been better had it been on the PlayStation 2. I mean, half of the characters in the game are in Klonoa Fail, so why not just reuse the models and just retool them for Beach Volleyball? Also, another thing I wonder about this game, why did Europe get it? They never got Dream Champ Tournament. How were they supposed to know what was going on? Like, I can imagine a European fan being like, who's this Guns guy? Who's this Garland guy? Wait, is that Lolo from Klonoa Fail? I thought she and Klonoa were separated. How are they back together? And is that Chipple from Empire Dreams? Man, the times sure have changed him. But yeah, that's all I can really say about Beach Volleyball. It was a limited release, so I can't imagine the game sold that well to begin with. Oh well, onward to the next game. Klonoa Heroes. Klonoa Heroes is a dungeon-crawling action RPG. In this game you play as Klonoa, Guns, and newcomer Pango. Overall, the game is fun. It does have problems though, such as how it's a dungeon crawler with no map system, and the fact that it's an action RPG that decided to have an accuracy stat. But anyways, onward to how the game was advertised. The game has something not many other Klonoa games have. A good commercial. What do I mean by that? Just watch for yourself.
Game Boy Advance. ドラマチックに強くなれクロノアヒーローズ伝説のスターメダルヒーローになってやる
Yeah, that was pretty good. Here's why I think that the commercial is a good commercial. One, it has something to interest the audience, an animated little clip of 3 heroes trying to save this girl. And as for fans of the series, I can imagine that they were even more interested. They were probably like, whoa, who's this new guy? Is that Guns? Oh my, Klonoa has a sword, and who's that? And oh, why does he have Lolo? This probably got people interested, and while I can't say if this commercial did its job that well or not, I can call the commercial by itself good. But that's all I can say for Heroes. So let's do something fun and talk about why this game wasn't localized. Now, you can just take the simple route and say that the reason why this game wasn't localized is because Dream Champ Tournament wasn't localized until 2005. So who knows how long this game would have taken. But that's too simple. Let's have some fun. Now warning, in me going over why I think this game wasn't localized, I'm going to be spoiling a bit of Klonoa Heroes. If you haven't played it or plan on playing it, click the time on screen when I talk about the next thing Klonoa related. If you don't care, or if you've played Klonoa Heroes, well then keep watching. Alright, the reason why I think the game wasn't localized is because of the game's darker themes. I mean, first off, death is mentioned multiple times in the game. Guns' father was killed in front of him by one of the game's main villains, Jenga. Heck, the plot of the first level of the game's final world is that Jenga has poisoned Klonoa, and so Guns and Pango have to find a cure for Klonoa before he, well, dies. Throughout the levels, we see scenes of Klonoa inside his own mind, seeing his friends and questioning what truly makes a hero. Not only is that question kinda deep, but if you look really closely, you can take what Klonoa is having as near-death experiences. Another thing that happens in World 5, where after Klonoa and friends beat Joka for the second time, Joka then says that he's pretty much gonna commit suicide. And then Klonoa tries to talk him out of it, but the words don't work and Joka punches himself and dies. And then there's Lolo. I know what you're thinking. How is Lolo one of the reasons for this game's dark themes? She's just a cute girl. Well, let's talk about what happens to Lolo in this game. Lolo at the start of the game is just Klonoa's childhood friend slash love interest that Klonoa gets a flower for. But then in World 4, she gets kidnapped and then she gets sent to space. And then what happens to her when she's in space is that Garland, who looks like a man in his middle ages, pretty much tortures Lolo to the point where she is put into a sleep that she will not wake up from. And let's not talk about how Garland talks to Lolo when she's there. He constantly calls her my dear Lolo and my sweet little Lolo. Of course, this is just Garland being an intimidating villain, but looked at him the wrong way, this can be seen as kind of pedophilic. But then, that could just be me overlooking things. Also, the characters say things like shit, damn, and hell in the game. But that could be easily fixed, so whatever. But yeah, that's why I think this game wasn't localized. Maybe Namco was worried that the game would have gotten a higher rating because when Klonoa Heroes came out in 2002, I don't think the E10 rating existed. So maybe they were afraid that the game would have gotten the T rating. Nowadays, I think the game would have just gotten E10+, but it's still kind of funny to think that Klonoa could have been rated T. But yeah, that's all there is to talk about with Klonoa Heroes, but don't think we're done yet. No, far from it. The Klonoa Manga. The Klonoa Manga is interesting. There were technically 2 manga, but one of them has next to no information about it other than it exists, while the other one has a full translation online that I'm going to be talking about now. The manga focuses on being a gag manga that stars Klonoa and his friends as they have weird adventures in Lunatea. The manga is pretty funny, like how Lolo drops a fridge on Klonoa and then Klonoa refuses to take his hat off. And then they tried their hardest to get the hat off him to the point where they resort to violence and Klonoa turns into this Super Saiyan Klonoa thingy. And yeah, the manga isn't all gags though. There are 1 or 2 moments where the manga is legitimately heartwarming. But these moments are few and far between. While I don't know how well the manga did, it apparently did well enough to have 2 volumes, so there is that. But from what I hear, the reception of the manga was mixed, as some fans felt the characters were too out of character. To that I say, what? There's a bunch of manga in Japan that has the characters out of character. What's this manga getting this shit for? Oh well, whatever. Anyway, so after the Klonoa manga, we didn't get any more Klonoa content besides Klonoa appearing in Namco x Capcom. I'm not going to be talking much about this game because it's not a Klonoa game, it's a game that just happens to have Klonoa in it. But with that said, I am going to quickly go over the Klonoa content of this game. Klonoa and Guns were playable characters, Jenga and Joker were bosses in the game, and heck, Lolo and the High Priestess were characters in the game's story. But yeah, that's all there really is to say about Namco x Capcom. After this, there was nothing Klonoa related, and yeah, Klonoa had no more stuff, so it seemed like Klonoa was dead. Until one day! There was a remake for the first game. Let's talk about the history of this game. When Bandai and Namco fused to make Bandai Namco, the CEO decided he was interested in bringing back the Klonoa series, and so they decided to bring him back with a remake. I mean, it makes sense, the Klonoa series was turning 10 years old at the time, so it was perfect to bring him back. They got Hideo Yoshizawa and his team to make it, and it seemed like the team was really excited about the game. Matter of fact, they even thought of redesigning Klonoa. And, oh boy, is that a redesign. Yep, that is. After fan backlash, the design was scrapped, and instead they decided to go for the design on the left. Also, they even said that had the Wii game done well, they might have made a remake for Lunatea's Veil. But that didn't get to happen. Why? Well, let me tell you. But first, how was this game advertised? Well, the game had a few commercials in Japan that were meh, but for the first time ever, Klonoa had a commercial in America. Oh yeah, here it is.
Wahoo! Get ready for an exciting adventure as you help Klonoa save Phantomile, a magical world created by everyone's dreams. Use the wind bullet to grab your enemies and wave your Wii remote to throw them. Shake your nunchuck to spin your enemies in a whirlwind and slow them down. You'll find new friends and enemies every step of the way. Help Klonoa save the captured dreams of Phantomile by jumping, floating, and throwing your way through 14 adventure-filled levels. And sharpen your battle skills as you face more and more difficult challenges, so you can save the world of Phantomile. Klonoa from Namco Bandai Games, only on the Wii.
Oh my god, that was horrible. Like legit, did they really think that that was a good idea? Anyways, there was also quite a few ads in Nintendo Power. Heck, they even had a history of Klonoa in the magazine, and even talked about some feats in the Wii game. Also, I love how they called the redesigned Klonoa the fake Klonoa, but that's all I could really find. Nintendo Power seemed to be the only thing that advertised the Wii game. Heck, in the final issue of Nintendo Power, Klonoa and the Wii was on their top 100 games that they've talked about. But it seems like this effort was for naught, as the game didn't even sell 20,000 copies. Jesus, like holy hell the game did awful. Maybe they didn't advertise it well enough, after all the commercial was awful and who knows how much Nintendo Power really helped, but maybe it was also because of the fan backlash. I mean, a lot of fans who heard about the Wii remake also heard of the voice acting. Oh yeah, I should probably talk about that. The Wii remake had voice acting. Overall it was okay. Most of the voice actors did their job well, and then we have Klonoa's voice. Not many people liked Klonoa's voice. I myself didn't mind it. I thought the voice was pretty good voice acting wise, but it just didn't fit Klonoa. And Eric Stitt himself even said on Twitter that he didn't even know about the Japanese Klonoa voice until he was done recording his lines. And also, Eric Stitt is bitter about his role, to say the least. But yeah, a lot of people didn't like the voice acting, so maybe some fans didn't give the Wii remake a chance. But then again, who knows how many fans actually knew there was a re-remake. But no matter what the reason was, Namco failed to make people want to get the re-remake. And before I move on, the re-remake also had a Flash game. It played like a mini shooter, and it was meh. So I'm not going to go over it much. But yeah, after this, Klonoa was dead once again. The only thing Klonoa appeared in after this was a 3DS baseball game. And so Klonoa was dead, never to return. Until one day, there was a Klonoa webcomic. Before I talk about this though, I should talk about the website it was hosted on, Shifty Look. Shifty Look was an attempt by Namco to advertise some of their lesser known franchises, with two of the most popular examples being Bravo Man and Wonder Momo, as they got webcomics, web animation.
Bravo Man, battling crime wherever he can. What do you do when it hits the fan? You gotta call Bravo Man.
Fun fact, Klonoa was also in an episode of Bravo Man, and heck, even iOS games. Heck, the Wonder Momo game was made by WayForward, so that's cool. And Wonder Momo got a physical release. But yeah, the Klonoa webcomic was made by writer Jim Zub and artist Hitoshi Agara, who, fun fact, was also the person who made the Mega Man Megamix and Gigamix manga, and even designed some Pokemon. The webcomic takes place after the video game series, with Klonoa being able to do most of the things he was able to do by the end of the series. And it also has a bunch of Klonoa's friends, such as Lolo, Hupo, Popka, heck, even Guns and Chippo are in here. The webcomic was awesome. If you were a fan of Klonoa, so many elements of the games were there, as the webcomic treated everything as canon except Klonoa Heroes because that game took place in an alternate universe. And then there's this part of the comic where Hupo and Lolo team up in Klonoa's ring, and he does an attack from Klonoa Heroes. The webcomic just had a lot of heart. Heck, had the webcomic ended, it could have been a perfect way to end the Klonoa franchise, having it be Klonoa's final stance against evil and having all of his friends team up to destroy it. But the webcomic wasn't finished. Shifty Look shut down in 2014, and the reason they gave was because they felt like they did their job, so they no longer wish to continue. But I have something to say about that. If you leave some stories unfinished, that's not really doing your job. Me and a few other people speculate that the real reason why Shifty Look went down is because Namco felt they just weren't making the returns. And so everything Shifty Look related was taken down. The website, the YouTube channel, and even the iOS games. And so the Klonoa webcomic ended like that. On this image of Klonoa and Lolo looking in horror as Nightmare, Klonoa, Guns, and Chipple come down to beat them up. Ending on a cliffhanger. You can still read the comic if you look up Klonoa the comic, but that's it. After this, Klonoa was dead again. The only appearance he had after this was in a mobile baseball game. So yeah, Klonoa was dead, doomed to only make appearances in baseball games. Until one day! Can I just point out that is the third time I've said this, like legit, Klonoa has to be the most dead and brought back franchise ever. He was dead, then he came back, then he was dead again, then he came back, then he was dead again, and this time he came back for a full-fledged movie. The announcement for this movie came out of nowhere, like legit, it was just a normal day, and then out of nowhere, it was just like, oh by the way, did you know they're making a Klonoa movie? It was like, wait, what the hell? Yep, Team Henshin is making the movie, and all we know about the movie is that it's happening and some of the people working on it, which I will talk about in a second. Honestly, a movie is the last thing I expected Namco to do if they were going to bring back Klonoa, because the reason Klonoa isn't consistently made is because of the financial reason. He doesn't do well enough for Namco to keep making him. So I thought if they were going to bring him back, they were going to do one of three things. 1. Re-release Lunatea's Veil in some way, shape, or form, whether it be an HD remaster or just re-release the game on PS4. 2. Get the people who made the webcomic back together to finish what they started. Of course, the problem at that point becomes where to host the comic, but that could be easily solved. Also, let's actually put a pin on this option. And 3, make Klonoa a downloadable title, like what Capcom did with Mega Man 9 and 10. Rather it be in the veins of Klonoa 1 and 2 or the handheld games, I could care less. But they decided to do a movie. And remember how I said they could have gotten the people who made the webcomic back? Well, they actually kinda did that. Hitoshi Agara is the main writer, artist, and character designer for the movie, so it's pretty much his show. And most of the people who are working on this movie are ex-Shifty Look workers. And probably one of the most surprising things, Hideo Yoshizawa is an executive producer on the movie. Yeah, you heard me. The creator of Klonoa is involved in the movie. When do video game movies ever get the original creator involved? Overall, I have a lot of hopes for the movie. Also, can I mention that the movie was announced on my birthday? Like, thanks Namco! But truth be told, a part of me kinda hopes that the movie treats itself as the series finale for Klonoa. It could honestly work. I mean, the webcomic could have treated itself like that, so yeah. I have no doubt that this could as well. I only say that just in case the movie doesn't do well enough to save the series, but yeah. Overall, I have a lot of hopes for the movie, and let's hope that this movie at least gives Klonoa a good end, or maybe it can save the franchise. We'll never know. Klonoa, despite not having games, was still in quite a few stuff. He was a costume in a few of the Tales of games, he was in Soul Calibur 5 as a DLC keychain, and there seems to be a crane-like game in Klonoa, in Japan about Klonoa, where you can win prizes. You can sometimes spot Klonoa in some Namco land in Japan, and Klonoa was also in another game for the PS2 called Airplane Racer 2. Also, Namco sometimes likes to promote Klonoas with this guy in a Klonoa suit. And heck, there were also a few Klonoa toys, like this really expensive Klonoa plushie that goes for like $500 now. There was a few little figurines like this Klonoa one, this Lolo one, this Popka one, this other Klonoa one, and this Lolo one. It's funny that Lolo herself has quite a few toys. And heck, I myself actually own a Lolo toy from the Namco Girls line of toys, yeah. But that's all for the other things Klonoa was in. It's weird, throughout multiple points in this video, there were times where the future looked dark for Klonoa. But now, the future looks bright, and I can't wait to see what comes of the movie. But until then, I will play the Klonoa games I love so much. Thank you all for watching this video, it really means a lot to me. Thank you to my good friend Ethan who edited this video, this couldn't have happened without him. And also big thanks to ExoParadiGamer for allowing me to use some of his footage. I really appreciate it. I hope if you guys are into Klonoa, this video did the series justice. And if you're not into Klonoa, I hope this video taught you a thing or two. Alright, I don't know how much I will make videos like this, but who knows, if you guys want more, I could get more. Alright, until then, see you next time. Peace.